This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 151. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Should I say something about Pokemon here?
Sure.
Yeah,
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
Valen.
Hey.
And Tam.
Recording from a brand new computer.
Yay!
Yay for new computers.
Yeah, no, like my mind didn't go to Pokemon at all. This number has minimal significance for me.
That's too bad.
Okay, so Persona 5 came out.
Yes.
Who all is playing it?
Never-ending onslaught of ridiculous games.
This year is an absolute onslaught of ridiculously good games. So okay. Most of the really good games that have been coming out this year have been open worldy sorts of games, and I'm not in a super huge open worldy game mood, so I've kind of have this like collection of games I've bounced off of because like one little thing keeps me away from it because I'm not that interested in like investing in an open world right now, which is a pity because I really want to play more Zelda, I really want to play more Horizon, I really want to play Mass Effect, but they're all open worldy games. So Persona 5 is not, and it has hooked me super hard, super fast. It's got the most ludicrous art style I've seen in a really long time, like since Killer 7, I think.
It has the most stylish UI I've ever seen in a game, ever.
It's completely insane. Like, its UI is so stylish, it borders on the unusable. And it's like, luckily, you don't actually need it for very much, because if I actually needed the UI for very much, I think I'd find it super annoying. But
It also made it easy to do stuff with shortcuts, so it doesn't really matter. Exactly.
Like, they do a bunch of stuff that works really well. Oh wow, have they improved on the systems. Like, it does the thing where it remembers... Persona 4 remembered what things were weak to, and I think Persona 3 did also. Am I right?
I think eventually.
Yeah. Persona 5 remembers what things we're weak to, and with a button tap, you can use the thing they're weak against if you know it, of the things you've tried, which is great because it means that you can sort of like move through combat quickly if you're fighting stuff that you're kind of already know how to fight, but it slows it down for things that you're still learning about, which works with the whole kind of discover how enemies work thing, like game thing works. The part that I really like is it used to be you'd do like some weird roulette thing and maybe you'd get a persona at the end of it to add to your Pokemon-y collection. That is not how Persona 5 does it. I don't know if going into it is spoilers because it's not really story related, but it is way different than I was expecting.
You have to negotiate with demons?
Yes.
That is also what you have to do in the base SMT games.
Okay. Yeah, so they've added this thing in. You've got to like... Normally, when you use something's weakness, it gets knocked down. And if you knock everything down, you can basically fire off a group-wide super move. Now you have choices when you knock everything down for what you're going to do. And one of those choices is like, talk to the thing you're fighting. And if you talk to the thing you're fighting, it can be like, you can be like, hey, give me an item, or give me some money. Like, you could shake it down for some money, or you can like have a chat with it, which is really funny. And you get like... It get a little bit more personality for each of the different personas that you have, as opposed to just like, oh, that guy's a weird bird snake man thing. Like, they actually chat with you more than just the one line.
So this is interesting because as you're talking about this, when I was really, I still really am into Undertale, but I know one of the inspirations the dev had for the system he built was SMT games, and like he basically wanted an entire game of negotiating with people as a JRPG.
This is not the whole game, but it's definitely a big piece of it. And like you have multiple, it's not like, you work your way through a conversation with whatever it is you're fighting. And as far as I can tell, like different things, like different instances of the enemy will say slightly different things. I haven't run into enough of the same ones to see if they repeat. I assume they do, but I've had different conversations with different monsters.
The thing that annoyed me in SMT4 was that it was sometimes frustratingly arbitrary.
Yeah, this one is... I don't know. I haven't done enough of it to really know. I felt like it's pretty clear what they're looking for. You've got to... What the kinds of things you need to say to sway a monster is, but I imagine that gets more obtuse as things go further. But, systems are super great. The music is amazing. It's a Persona game. The crazy art style is super compelling. It does this really cool cell shaded thing, and you're walking around just normally. That I really like. It feels very Persona-y to me. They've got a great sense of pacing. There's a bit where you've got to get to school, and part of getting to school is navigating Tokyo subways. And it's like, don't be late, but like, in order to navigate the Tokyo subway, you've got to know a thing or two about navigating the Tokyo subway. And if you keep going in the wrong way, your character will be like, oh, well, this isn't the way I'm supposed to go. But if you know how to navigate the subway, you can just like look up and see the name of the line that you need to go and follow the signs, and it works, which is kind of neat. It feels like the resolution is high enough that it feels like I can navigate the world by looking around at it as opposed to watching my minimap. And I actually find the minimap less helpful than wandering around than like just looking around in the actual world. Like I needed to go find a classroom, and rather than like looking on the map, I was just looking at the numbers on the classroom doors. And like it's a little detail, but it's great that I can reliably use the environment as a visual cue.
Yeah, I hate games where like the game is beautiful, and I'd love to be able to look at the game, but I've got to like stare at the minimap because that's where all the important information is.
And it does a nice thing where it pops up any interaction you have, it has an audio cue when you're close enough to do it. So you don't actually have to actually look around the screen to see the UI element that says, hey, you can interact with this. There's a notable audio cue that's like, oh, hey, I'm near something I can interact with. So you can keep on watching the world as opposed to watching your UI, which is a nice touch. And helps a lot because like I said, the UI is completely madness.
So does this game take as long as Persona 4 did to get to the game part?
It depends on what you consider the game part. Like
Persona 4 takes 2 hours to get you through the first tutorial battle, and then another probably 2 hours before you actually have any choice as to what you can do.
So Persona 5, I've put about 4 hours into it, and I haven't gotten to the point where I am making what feel like meaningful choices. It's sort of like the we're on-ramping you still before we open up everything. Like I don't have a choice of what I'm going to do in my days yet.
Got it.
But the tutorial battle is like 30 seconds in. You start in a tutorial dungeon. Which brings me to the other part of this game. Oh, wow, is Persona 5 dark. Like
more so than the previous ones?
Massively.
Persona 4 is not all that dark at first.
Yeah.
Even though it is a game about murder mysteries.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really it's super, super striking to me because Persona 4 is, for unspecified reasons, you are moving from the city to the country for a year and staying with your uncle and his, your friendly, if somewhat negligent uncle and his adorable sweetheart daughter. And you make friends and solve murders. Persona 3 is darker, but it's still like, okay, you've been selected to live in this dorm for this, boarding school with some people who are like a little standoffish at first, but warm up to you pretty quickly and are generally happy to have you around. Persona 5 does not start this way.
Yeah, I got the impression, even just from the trailer, that like the people around you don't care for you.
So, step one, the game is structured as a retelling as you are sitting beaten up in a police interrogation room. Like, you're retelling the story that's happened to you in this police interrogation room because that first tutorial dungeon ends badly and you get arrested.
This is a familiar scene if you remember the early teaser trailers.
Yeah. And then you flash back to same setup. You are transfer student at a new school. Difficulty. The reason you're a transfer student is because you are arrested for assault. You were arrested for assault because you tried to stop some guy who turned out to be a, well-placed politician who was, harassing some woman. And when you knocked him over, he decided to take it out on you, and you got arrested. And your parents, shamed by the fact that their child is a convicted juvenile criminal at this point, send you away to some, boarding school. And so you're a teenager with a criminal record in Japan. This is not a great situation to be in. You've got your supposed caretaker. You're sleeping in like the attic of some cafe. Your supposed caretaker is the cafe's proprietor, whose more or less sole interactions with you involve informing you how much of a pain it is for him to have to deal with you, and also if you mess up once, he's done with you and you'll have nowhere to go. And also, it turns out your criminal record was leaked to your school, so everyone at school gossips about you being a criminal. And like, your teacher doesn't want you in their class. Like, none of the staff wants you in their school. The other students mostly want nothing to do with you, ranging from, outright fear to please don't talk to me. I don't want other people seeing us talking. The only other person who will chat with you is like another delinquent type. And it's like, wow, this is super dark. Also, the Velvet Room is a prison cell.
That's a step down from an elevator or a limo.
Yep. So it's like, wow, this game opened up into just like hyper oppressive real fast. And you feel it. Like, it does an incredibly good job of just driving home you're this outsider. You're like a perfectly reasonable person, but circumstances beyond your control have totally screwed you over. And you don't really have you don't seem to have any real recourse. And it gets compounded by, because this is a Persona game, you've got this second, you've got like the other world you go into. And this is mild spoilers for the like first hour or so of the game. But I mentioned that bit where you're trying not to be late to school on your first day. Yeah, you wind up late because you get sucked into the alternate world and have to find a way out. GG. Which of course does not help anybody's opinions of you, but it's not like they're going to believe you if you tell them what happened.
So how much so far does the class activities and things like that actually factor into the game?
I haven't really gotten that far yet. I did get a one of the like teacher asks a question, can you answer it? Little quiz sections, and answering it correctly was really, really satisfying. It was interesting. It was really, really satisfying, much more so than in either of the previous two games, because you got the chatter around was, I thought that guy was like a kind of checked out delinquent type, but he knew the answer. Like, maybe we misjudged him. And like, I feel like the things that I'm doing, even though I don't have a lot of control over it, the things that I'm doing are actually changing the way the world interacts with me, which is cool. Like, it's sort of evolving as the story goes. You're on the one hand, I find your first like best friendy, what's his name, invariably annoying first party member sidekick to be incredibly annoying in this one.
Even more so than Yosuke.
So, okay, he is more annoying than Yosuke. He is less annoying than guy I can't remember from Persona 3. Junpei. Like, Junpei is mostly he's annoying. Mostly he's more annoying than Yosuke because he's a constant loudmouth, and I'd really like to tell him to shut up more than I get the chance to. But, like, I actually think that I'll like him a whole lot better than Yosuke if he can calm down a little bit and stop talking us into stupid situations because he's a hothead.
Talking you into stupid situations is supposed to be the protagonist's job.
Yeah, I do a lot of talking everybody out of stupid situations as the protagonist. But, like, the characters are really interesting thus far. Also, the mascot character is so much better than Persona 4's, which I realize is a low bar, but she's really cool.
Is it the cat we keep seeing?
Yes, it's the cat, and she's pretty awesome.
I really like the design of the cat.
Yeah, I don't know what her deal is, but actually, I'm actually not even really sure about the gender of the cat, but super great. I think she's awesome. I don't know, Morgana. I don't know.
That sounds like a female name.
It sounds like a female name. It's an incredibly androgynous character. I'm mostly just using Morgana as a gender identifier because that's the sole thing I have. But it's also pretty irrelevant, thankfully, unlike Teddy. But yeah, like, it's really cool. I like Morgana a lot. I actually like all of the characters. The blonde female lead, Anne, is really cool too. They do really interesting things with the characters that I feel like it took longer in Persona 4 to see happen. But yeah, I'm super hooked. It's telling a really dark story that's made even darker by the fact when you consider that there's high school students involved. Like, it's not unrealistically dark for high school, but it's like these are the things that happen at high school that people don't like to talk about, and it's really striking in that. But I have this feeling that there's going to be a turning point where, or I get the impression that there's going to be this turning point where you're no longer, where you're less and less like actively, the world is less actively oppressive. Because right now it's pretty actively oppressive.
Yeah, like, that sounds... I mean, you were talking to me earlier, like, about how you don't think I will enjoy this and how I will bounce off, and, like, what you're describing does not sound like it would be terribly fun for me.
Yeah. It is very, like... The game is super, super cool, and it's hinting at a lot of things that I suspect are going to happen later. When the game goes into, like, touching conversations, or when it is positive, it's really... it's very genuinely and enthusiastically positive, which suggests to me that there is more of that in the game, but it's making a point early. And I'm gonna be really interested to see what happens. Like, it's a game I really want to see. Like, does that change? Is it just super oppressive through the whole game? Because I think it won't be as good if it is, because part of the beauty of the other Persona games is that they kind of balance the darkness and the joy really, really well. And this one's like gone super heavy in the dark very quickly without very much of the joy. And I'm gonna be interested to see if they balance that out later. But yes, super excited about this game. I need the soundtrack in my face right now. It's so good.
So something I had no clue that we were going to be talking about this week is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. How did this even start?
Someone decided to play it.
So I had a PS TV that I had never really hooked up, and I finally hooked it up, and I was like, I wonder what I can play on this thing. And so I tried to get it to do remote play of my PS4, which is not as functional as I hoped it would be. But then I was like, okay, let's see what's in this game's catalog, the store's catalog, and Castlevania Symphony of the Night was there, and I've never played Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which
amazes me since you're like a fan of Metroidvanias.
I am a fan of Metroidvania, so I think even in like the Slack, I was like, hey guys, I decided to pick up a new Metroidvania. And like somebody was like, oh, Hollow Knight? I was like, no, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
It's like
original.
The reason it's called a Metroidvania.
I legit thought you were being facetious and cracking a joke, and I have been really confused at what I thought was just an extended in-joke.
Nope. I've never played Symphony of the Night. I never had a PS1.
It's pretty... I mean, it's been on multiple platforms since then.
It was one of the first things I bought off of PSN when I got my PS3, because I hadn't played it before.
Yeah, it's also available on the Xbox network for download.
Yeah,
because I've got copies on like 3 different.
I own a copy of this on everything that it's come out on. I think I have a Saturn copy.
Yes.
No, that's a different game. It's a good game. But
it is a good game, but it is a different game that has a musical title. Harmony of Dissonance, was that it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the GBA one. Dawn of Sorrows was the first DS one.
Ah, right.
Still making up that DS pun was really common with games on the DS first.
So yeah,
Kodra's timing is also really good because it was pointed out to me earlier tonight by a friend. We are only like 2.5 weeks past the 20th anniversary of Symphony of the Night coming out in Japan.
Yeah, I saw a thing across my Twitter feed the other day about it.
Yep.
But yeah, so I pop in and I'm like, what's this game's gonna be like? I have no idea. I have played a lot of games that have come after it, but I've never played this one. And I mean, I sort of had the feeling because I didn't know what to expect because most of my Metroidvania experience comes from me playing Metroid. And so I now have some stronger critiques about a lot of later Metroidvanias.
Yeah, I can see that because Metroid created the concept, but I would say that Symphony of the Night is what really refined it and made it, and it was the first real Metroidvania as we think of them.
Really, I think Zelda created the concept.
Yeah, I would say because I feel like you can say Zelda created the concept, but I also don't feel like I don't know.
Metroidvania usually implies side scroller.
Sure, but the thing that I like about Metroidvanias is you acquire items that allow you to unlock more of the map. And it's this feeling of exploration. And I still think that is better served by Super Metroid than it is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But I think Symphony of the Night is doing is doing general combat much better.
Yeah, I can see that.
So this is actually really, really existentially satisfying for me to hear because I know you really like Metroidvanias in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. And I think that I don't, but I remember a time that I did. And I think that what's happened is I played the good ones too early.
Possibly.
Maybe.
I can see that.
Because to me, I think that the two best in my book are Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night. That represents the cream of the crop of the Metroidvania.
Yeah, everything since then
when they came out.
Everything since then has been trying to recapture the magic of those two. And that's why Belle and I both contributed to the Bloodstained Kickstarter is because
oh hell yes,
we want Symphony of the Night again. Just
to be fair,
yeah.
So I realize you may not agree with this opinion, but I think Aria of Sorrow is better than Symphony of the Night. It was the third one for the Game Boy Advance.
I've been playing it, and it's good.
Aria of Sorrow is pretty fantastic. It's true.
It's good, but I don't know. Part of it's the fact that it's on such a small form factor.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have quite the grandeur of Symphony. Yeah.
And as much as I liked Aria of Sorrow and I absolutely played it to completion, I have not replayed it the way I have Symphony of Night. I don't know how many times I've played Symphony of the Night from start to finish at this point.
About once a year.
And I just started again yesterday because Kodra brought it up. It's I haven't played that in a while. I'm gonna go do that.
So Metroid is really, really focused on every single special item you get is used to do an interesting thing in a boss fight, and then also helps you access new parts of the map and unlock puzzles. If I am sort of looking at how Symphony of the Night did it, they there's really 3 points, and I kind of would argue 4 points that I can think of immediately, and I would argue 2 of them are kind of lame. There's accessing the ability to open blue doors, which you get by going to the library and getting that guy.
Right.
There's mist form, which allows you to go through certain gates. And then there's double jump and bat form.
Yep.
And it's like, that's actually a pretty limited number of opportunities, and really only 2 of them are quite game-changing. Like, the game teases double jump for so long, and it's so frustrating.
It's true.
And then you get it, and it's like, oh, okay, now I have to, like, replay this entire game with the understanding that I have double jump. And then you get, like, you find all of the places where it's like, not quite! And
Can't
you
quite
have to
get there.
You have to find bat form to really open up the map. But, I still think it pales in comparison to Metroid, which is really, like, we are locking down this map, and as you, like, go through this place, you will unlock it piece by piece by piece. That said, like, the combat is way cooler. Like, all of the various equipment is a lot more focused on making you feel more powerful in combat. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where a lot of modern Metroidvanias get their, like, inspiration, is like, we're gonna, like, copy the Castlevania combat system, which is good, and I also think a lot of people don't fully implement that. Like, I don't know many Metroidvanias that have a spell system like this one does, and yeah.
So you just have to kind of, find by a thing. What just happened? I threw some fireballs across the room. What?
Yeah.
Something, dark metamorphosis.
Dark metamorphosis. Yes.
That and Tetris Spirit are, like, the most fantastic spells used all the time.
I haven't gotten Tetris Spirit. Also, I'm curious, because I've only encountered, like, 2 things that bleed.
There's a fair
surprisingly large number of things bleed if you are using an edged weapon.
Yes, that does make a difference.
I thought I was using an edged weapon, but maybe I'm not.
Well, and you mentioned, the weapons making a difference. They make, especially when you start to find the weapons that have special abilities when you pull off Street Fighter moves.
Yes.
Because there are quite a few of those, and they are a big damn deal.
Yeah, so I didn't even realize that was a thing until I was like, I just got Alucard's sword, and was like, how am I dashing across the... Oh, I'm doing the Hadouken maneuver.
Yep.
Oh.
There are a lot of weapons that do something special when you do either a forward or a reverse Hadouken.
Interesting.
Like, there's a rod that will basically throw Moon Tiara magic across the screen.
Yep.
And it's incredibly powerful. Like, that's my standard second weapon.
So, as I've been playing this, the game that I'm actually more often reminded of is my experiences playing Dark Souls. Because this is a game that's, like, very, very lonely. Like, you exist in this space that you are constantly traversing back and forth and, like, incrementally improving your combat abilities and, like, occasionally running across somebody to talk to. But it's still...
You mean Maria?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, the combat is also pretty, like, for a side-scroller, it's pretty deep. And, like, there's a lot you can do there, like, block with shields and...
jump attacks. And
Sure. And, like, you need to be able to do all of it. It has, like, the same thing triggers when I'm playing Dark Souls. And, like, the feeling of Dark Souls is there. And so it's like, I can see how the people that made Dark Souls would have been inspired by something like Symphony of the Night when they were sort of getting that feel. It's actually really funny because this game is not actually that hard, and
mostly not.
I keep expecting it to be much harder.
There are certain bosses that can be a real pain. Those are the main things.
I just ran into one and was like, I don't understand how anyone possibly beats this boss ever. And then I looked online and was like, oh, equip this one item that allows you to absorb lightning damage. Okay, that's dumb. Like, this item that you have to, like, do this stupid little, like, trick to get.
I mean, there's a few other... I mean, you can get Potions of Thunder resist and some other... There's more than one way to get Resist Thunder.
Yeah, but I used Resist Thunder, and the problem is it still knocks you back. so you can't get in the offense that you get when you're absorbing it.
Right. There's often
Like-
there's also often a particular secondary, a particular special weapon, the ones that you pick up and use hearts. That is, for a lot of the bosses, there is one particular one of those that is especially good against it.
Oh, interesting. I haven't
not in that it does extra damage, just in that the pattern of the boss means that particular, there's some that the axe is especially good against. There are others that holy water will just absolutely destroy.
If I remember correctly, there's some bosses that aren't immune to the time stuff.
This is correct. There's at least one that you really, really want the dagger for. But yeah.
This is the boss in the reverse castle at the bottom that has the big mace that casts lightning and holy magic at you. He's giant and just was kept wrecking me repeatedly, and then I went and did something else and was like, how do I even try and beat this guy? And then found out, oh yeah, there's an item that basically trivializes him.
Oh, Galamoth, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the hard boss.
He's an ass.
Yeah, but if you
I think of him as the hard boss.
He really is.
He's trivial if you have the barrel circlet.
That, yeah. The lightning is yeah.
Well, I mean, even all you do is you stand in it, you wait for him to use lightning, you stand in it and heal up, and then you run away for the rest of the fight. Which, I mean, it was interesting. I have not quite... So I beat the game, the, first ending, the bad end, and that game does not tell you that there is a better end whatsoever.
Yeah, you basically have to come across it through exploration. And I mean, once you've gotten far enough in finding the stuff, it becomes clear what you need to do.
I mean,
but some of that stuff is hidden away.
Describe far enough in finding the stuff.
Once you have the gold and silver rings, if you look at their descriptions, it should then be clear what you have to do. And at that point, you find Maria, you get the glasses, and she tells you, don't kill Richter. So,
it says where clock in tower, which
where in clock tower.
That's not what it says.
If you interleave the two, it does.
Oh.
Because there's little dots. There's where clock and the other is in tower.
So the other interpretation of that is where the clock sub-item in the tower. Which is how you unlock the right path.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So close. But yeah, I mean, finding the two rings is, basically you have to just keep exploring until you find them. There's no particular clue that they're out there to find.
I actually don't have a big problem with them because it is, once you have the map, it is clear that there is something on the map that you have yet to uncover.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have yet to uncover this kept me going to try and figure out how to uncover it.
Right.
I actually had both of those items when I first beat the game. I just didn't realize I had to wear both of them in the clock tower. But yeah, there's an entire half of the game that you can very easily totally miss.
Yep, because you don't want to kill Richter. You need to defeat that bad mother. The dark shaft.
But I started doing that. I have to say, it's definitely a lot harder being on the flip side.
Yes, the reverse castle is much more difficult because it's assumed, by the time you get to it, that you've got all sorts of cool stuff.
The reverse castle.
All I gotta say is, what is a man but a miserable pile of secrets?
So I thought, I've always heard that line, and I sort of thought that was the climactic finale.
No.
It is the climactic finale
of a different game.
Yeah, of Dracula X.
Of Rondo of Blood. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also a really good game, but it's a vastly different feeling game.
Well, it's
a linear game.
Has it actually been officially translated ever?
Yeah, Dracula X for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, well, that was a different game than Rondo of Blood.
Oh, okay.
Rondo
I don't think so.
Got a PSP release.
Yeah, Rondo of Blood at the point that Symphony.
Rondo of Blood was a PC Engine game.
Rondo of Blood had only come out in Japan.
Yeah. I had Rondo of Blood for PC Engine.
And so when they brought
Super CD.
So in Symphony of the Night, they translated it as Bloodlines, which was a completely different game.
Dude, I love Bloodlines, though.
The sequel to that game is on the DS.
Bloodlines was the Genesis one, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I loved the spear guy. He was amazing.
Okay, yeah, Dracula X is the closest we got to a port of Rondo of Blood at the time. It used the graphics and like nothing else.
It is very confusing that you are constantly getting hearts and they are not refilling your health.
That's not what hearts do in Castlevania.
That's a Castlevania thing.
I understand that it might be a Castlevania thing, but the rest of the industry has decided that they're wrong.
Food is what refills your health.
Yes,
Including
finding
wall
pot roast
chickens.
under the stairs. And wall chickens, yes.
Wall
This is, by the
chicken,
way,
the
why
tastiest chicken.
This is why Dust and Elysian Tale has an item called wall chicken, literally.
That's amazing.
I'm not familiar with wall chickens.
So you break walls and chickens come out for some unknown
Oh,
reason.
Yeah.
right.
Like this is another thing that has been since the original Castlevania, and absolutely is in Symphony of the Night. Like in one of the first couple of rooms after entering the castle, there's a wall you can break, and inside is a chicken. I'm also kind of curious if now that you've played this, if it like gives you any additional insight into Rogue Legacy. Because like when I first played Rogue Legacy, my immediate thought was, wow, this is like heavily inspired by the feel, the art style of Symphony of the Night.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like, that was another thing that I sort of took away, is a lot of games that are aping Castlevania are aping the gameplay. And, like, they are trying to, like, copy the mechanics and whatnot, but they're also, like, there's a lot of atmosphere that happens in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it feels weird because I am playing, like, the serious straight version of all of these games that are sort of goofy that I've played.
You've played these sort of parodies of it, and now you're finally playing the thing that they were all parodying.
Yeah, and I feel like other people who are parodying it are missing the point, because like the atmosphere really, really works well in this game, and like treating it as a serious thing that's happening is absolutely improving the experience over the like, hey, we're just gonna have you go through this castle and like beat stuff up, and isn't this funny?
Yeah, like I think the art and the music both are huge parts of why it holds up so well even now, because it's still just a gorgeous, gorgeous game.
Well, and the soundtrack is so amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack.
I could still listen to it now over and over and over after hearing it hundreds of times.
The
I think
pre-rendered-
Castlevania Symphony of the Night was the first import soundtrack I ever ordered off and got.
The pre-rendered cutscenes have not aged well, but basically everything
They
else
have not.
has.
Yes.
Like, the voice acting is also a little...
The translation and voice acting are not good. But they're not good in that Resident Evil Master of Unlocking way, so it's okay.
So I will say, like, you played the good version of this game, in that there's also a Saturn version of the game, and it has like Maria as a playable character and Richter as a playable character. But the timing and the controls all feel vastly different, and it just doesn't feel as clean and as polished.
Now Richter is also a playable character in this one. It's just not made obvious.
Right.
If you start a new game and choose Richter as your name, then you're playing Richter.
Oh, interesting.
And it is completely different.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Because he plays exactly like that first portion.
Simon
of the game.
Belmont.
He doesn't get equipment upgrades. He uses whip, and he uses the secondary special weapons, and has the super versions of each of them that are absurd.
So you can summon the rain gods to defeat bosses.
Yes.
Seems strong.
I mean, if you got the hearts for it, it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is there a point to the wolf form?
Not really.
There's
Okay.
there are like, if I remember correctly, there's like collapsing bridges in a couple places that you can dash across with Wolf.
Yeah, like you can get running really fast and make some jumps. There's not a lot of point.
Like,
It
the
is
place...
linearly pretty fast, but that's not ever actually that useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I was like... I kept trying to figure out how to make the wolf form work, and I was like, this is just terrible.
I don't
There's
think
like,
it's awful, it's just not great.
I I think there's a point that you need it, and if you want to get full completion on the map, then you need the wolf form.
Yeah, there's some places that are basically like the equivalent of the bomb ball form for Samus, where only the wolf will actually fit in there.
I thought the bat was the same size.
Actually, the main thing with the wolf for completing the map is that swimming in wolf form, it's odd. It gives you the ability to pop the wolf form up higher than And there's a couple of spots in the reverse castle where you need that if you want to fill the map.
Can the wolf swim without being disrupted?
There's a special item for that, the snorkel.
Oh,
cough, holy symbol, cough.
It's a snorkel.
I have missed this item.
Yeah, it's down in the bottom of the main castle, if I remember correctly, down in the caves with all the mushrooms.
I've clearly missed a lot of items.
Yeah, you need to get that.
There's so much hidden in this game, seriously.
But yeah, if you have that, you don't take damage from water.
Huh. Yeah, I never found that. I solved all of my water puzzles with the brute force way.
Pretty sure that's the whole vampires and running water thing.
Yes.
I totally get it. Although a lot of it is not running water.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, did you ever find the boatman in the underground?
I did.
Okay, yeah, it's not too far past him once he's carried you across.
I got something. I went across where the boatman took me.
That's one of the ways to get back, is to not be damaged by water.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. But...
Oh, and how many familiars have you found at this point?
I found 4 familiars.
Okay, that's pretty good. There's 5 total, so...
I did not find the sword.
Yeah,
the sword is my favorite one, though.
Yeah, the sword is the best once it's leveled up. I tend to run the fairy just to point out secret rooms.
I've mostly been using the fairy. She has yet to point out a secret room to me.
You kind of have to stand around a bit, and sometimes she'll go over to a place and be like, "Hey, look at this."
Interesting.
Hey, listen.
Pretty much.
Mostly she makes sure that I am using my consumables.
Yes, that's her primary purpose. She'll hit you with a hammer if you get turned to stone. It's very nice of her.
All I can think of is BioShock Infinite. Hey, Booker!
Is there a place to purchase stuff in the reverse castle?
No.
Why does it keep dropping, all of these gems for me, then?
I mean, you can go back to the library in the normal castle.
Oh, you can go back to the normal castle?
Yeah. Just go back down to where you teleported up. You can absolutely teleport back down.
Oh, interesting.
Or you can use library card.
Is that what the library card does? Is it summons the library?
No, it sends you to the library.
Oh, okay. I haven't bothered using it, and I was like, I should try using more stuff.
And if you ever decide that you want combat to be super easy and no challenge whatsoever for the rest of the game, go get a sword called the Chrysogrim.
The Chrysogrim.
Chrysogrim. It is a drop in the library, if I recall correctly. And basically, you hold down the button, and it does a flurry of blades in front of you, and you can walk while doing this.
Oh, wow.
It is the overpowered weapon.
Yeah.
I was going to say...
a blender o' death.
They brought it back for Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow and did not make it any less overpowered.
It is the I don't want this game to be challenging anymore weapon.
So, that was the funny thing. I got the little dagger that has really fast attacks. I used that thing for a while.
That dagger is useful, yeah.
That dagger did a lot of work for me. But now I have Alucard's sword, and Alucard's mail, and Alucard's shield, so that's what I'm using.
The best item in the game is the color-changing cloak, just saying.
Yes, Joseph's cloak is pretty great.
Have no idea where that is.
You can buy it
purchased? Yeah.
It's not cheap.
It basically opens up a new system in your settings. And you can change the color of the cloak.
It's also good in and of itself, but yeah, you can change its color.
Yeah, that's what's important, is that I get to change the color of the cloak.
Well, that's kind of one of my favorite trinkets are the secret boots.
What are the secret boots?
They have cleverly hidden boosts in the heels to make you look taller.
Oh.
Yes.
And your sprite is absolutely taller while you're wearing it.
Just a little bit taller.
I am using the Sunstone right now, because I am now in today. But yeah, I've been playing. I picked it up and I played this game a lot, and because I was like, I'm gonna take a quick break from Breath of the Wild. Soon I will be going back to the Breath of the Wild once I kill Dracula. But
this might be a decent segue.
Oh yeah,
to Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild still, like, it's working out pretty well for me. Like, I've sort of just been wandering around. I managed to finally get into Goron City, which is nice because it allowed me to buy equipment that allowed me to stay in Goron City. The game is a lot more open and free, and kind of as a result, a lot less accessible. But once you get on doing the quest to like solve one of the dungeons, it stays pretty linear and is pretty fun. Dungeons are cool.
Yeah, I'm having a similar thing where I was really into it in the whole like moving through the Zora area and doing the dungeon, and that whole thing was super cool. And then as soon as I was done, it was like, well, now you're done. Poop you back out into the world, and now I'm frustrated and bored with this game again. Only now everything two-shots me. And it's every like, 20 okay.
minutes.
What?
Every 20 minutes.
That's what I mean. I die once, and I take another hit and die again.
Yeah.
Because I have 6 hearts, and now suddenly I'm fighting enemies that can shoot me from almost out of sight for 12 and a half.
Did you find the Great Fairy?
Yeah.
And you've got like all of your gear upgraded?
I have some like kind of crappy gear that I've upgraded a little bit because it's expensive to upgrade them. And I feel like I should spend that on something worthwhile. But yeah, I mean, like a big part of the reason that I'm running around in the heaviest armor I can find is because, you know, some random boblin with a bow is just like, hey, there's 11 hearts gone. Enjoy. Oh, you died? Okay.
Man, I have, like, boblins with a bow do not do a ton of damage to me.
It's just like a regular green boblin. I went to, like, the next place I wound up on the map as I was chasing towers. It's, like, in the south somewhere, and, like, literally everything. I had a ram. Some random ram decided to charge me instead of running away and took off 5 hearts. Like, all right. It's like, and it just went... And, like, I don't know if I'm going in the wrong direction or what, but, man, did it go from, like, okay, this is kind of fun, the weapons are annoying me, to, like, this is absolutely 100% unfun. Please let me go back to the part where this game is fun.
Yeah, I have not had your experience. Like, I wonder if I'm just going to the right zones, but stuff. So I've now got up to, like, 11 hearts, though. But I mostly experience is like things take 1 or 2 hearts off of me when they hit. Unless it's like something big.
Like a guardian.
Or...
Yeah, this is like... My play of the game right now is I'm running around and I only survive if I am never hit in combat. If I am hit in combat, even once, I'm dead. And that's just me, like, I'm just trying to wander around the map to get more shrines, to get more hearts, because... that seems to be what I need, but I don't know. I found myself not playing this game anymore because it's just not fun for me. And there's parts of it that are really cool, and I don't know how to get back to them. I want to just play those parts.
I mean, it might be worthwhile just like focusing on going to the Goron place.
I don't know where that is. I don't know where anything
to the north.
I have no idea where anything is in the game. I'm just going to like, oh, I see a tower. Let's go to that tower. Let's see if there's something around here. I found a thing with a bunch of bird people, or rather, I found some bird people talking about a bird people city, which is what I was trying to find. But that's the place where like average boblin, you know, they drop really good weapons. So I guess there's that, but like I still go through 5 of them to kill a boblin. Well, not all of them. One of the green ones, there's like there's like orange ones, and then there's like green ones with stripes.
Yeah, the green ones are the tough ones.
Okay.
There's the orange, there's blue, and then there's green.
Yeah. I mean, I got ridden down by 3 green ones on horses.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I don't know what I could have possibly done about that.
So I actually had that happen to me, and I definitely died a bunch to horseback bokoblins. And the answer that I ultimately found was like get some lucky headshots and knock them off of a horse.
Yeah.
But definitely getting things off of a horse before you fight it is important in this game, because horseback things are mean.
I don't feel as scary on a horse as other things on horses feel against me, which is a little frustrating. I just don't use the horse anymore because it's sort of never around when I need it. I don't know. I feel like there is a way to play this game. I feel like it needed to be more linear than it is, because it definitely seems like it's a great experience if you are playing the right bits at the right time, and it is utter misery if you aren't.
It does have a thing that's I also like, speaking of gating off the map, I wish they had done a little more of it in this game, because I feel like I see a lot of things that have cool puzzle setups that like you could try and solve, or you could look to the left and see a big mountain and be like, why don't I just fly over everything? That seems like a good solution to this puzzle.
That is absolutely the right solution to some of those puzzles.
Yeah, but like there's these obviously well-crafted approaches that they're trying to get you to like solve this cool thing they've built, and no, it's just like, I'm like, brute force is so easy to apply in this game.
Well, and like some of them, I don't even know how I was supposed to get in there. Like the Dueling Peaks stables, that shrine right out in front of it with all those spikes.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, you find a peak and you fly into it.
Yeah, because like somebody had told me, oh, you can burn the spikes, but I wasted a bunch of fire arrows and could not burn said spikes.
Oh, interesting. I did not realize you could even burn those.
Oh yeah, I definitely. So those big thorn bushes are how I was able to kill some things that I probably shouldn't have. The trio of horse bokoblins, because it. Oh, by the way, the game saved with me in their sight. That was cool. So like I would load my save and they'd already be running me down. So the way I finally beat them was I dove through a thorn bush and lit the thorn bush on fire as they chased me into it, and they all got set on fire. And then I could at least fight them. I felt pretty smart about that, but it took me like 2 hours of dying to them to get to that. And then I fell into a canyon with no exits.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It's clearly big. It's clearly got a lot of stuff to do. Like, my focus right now is like, my problem is I get distracted, so I'm trying to like set goals for myself of what I'm trying to do so that I can get something done. But it's an interesting story being told.
Yeah, I do really like the story that's being told, because it's much more. I normally don't find the stories in Zelda games all that compelling, but like this one is interesting.
It's very, very sad.
And at least for me, it kind of makes some of the other Zelda stories make more sense.
Yeah, there's some of that.
How so?
Because it creates a universal narrative of why this keeps happening. Why there is a Link, why there is a Princess Zelda, why there is a Ganon. Like, that it's this cyclical thing that there will always be a princess that can seal evil, and there will always be a hero that can, damage the evil enough to let it be sealed again.
Can wield the blade that seals evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does some things. It does some really interesting things. It is a Zelda game with history that hints at other Zelda games. Like, I don't know where this falls in the timeline, but I feel like there are references to other Zelda games in the history you see.
It definitely falls after Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't somebody notice that some things on the map of this game match up with stuff from one of the CDI games?
What?
Oh god.
I don't even know what the CDI games are. This sounds terrible.
Wow.
Panasonic CDI was it, or Philips CDI?
Philips, yes. When you get the chance and want to see some horror, like some just dark, horrifying, Google Wand of Ganelon.
Okay.
Basically, Once upon a time, Nintendo let somebody else make a couple of the Legend of Zelda games. There's a reason they have never done this again since.
That's not actually true, because they let Capcom make 3 Zelda games.
Did they?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
ones are Capcom?
Minish Cap and
Minish
Oh,
Cap,
that's right,
Oracle of
Minish
Ages,
Cap
and Oracle
was-
of Seasons.
Okay.
It only took them 15 years to allow it.
The CDI Zelda games are widely considered some of the both worst and just most poorly half-assed made games ever. But yeah, apparently there's like an island that you can see on the map in Breath of the Wild. The shape matches up very well with an island and nearby coastline on the map in Wand of Gamelon.
Huh. There is a mechanic that I suspect this game doesn't have, but if it had it, everything else about this game that frustrates me would be instantly forgiven.
Which is
Wings. Give me like Icarus style wings and let me fly around using my stamina bar, and I would have so much fun flying and gliding around in this game. Make it so that it burns stamina for me to flap and gain altitude, but I can glide for free.
so you know about fires, right?
Yeah, but it's very much not the same.
Okay. Like I've had really good luck getting up into the air off of updrafts from a fire.
But it's not about getting up into the air, it's about traversal.
I
Like
also feel like that is sort of directly counter to what they've designed in the game.
which is the climbing.
Yeah, but that climbing fucking sucks, frankly. Like, it's ultra not fun unless you just have a bajillion stamina. But I've been stuck, and it's so slow. So painfully slow. Every stupid tower. Every tower is like a 10-minute identical slog. Except for the ones that I have to cook stamina food just to get to the top of. I hate climbing in that game.
I actually really like climbing.
It was really cool at
Yeah, I
first.
do too.
It was really, really cool at first, and now I'm in just lands of the climbing is basically meaningless because I can never get anywhere.
I don't like climbing. For me is like this mini game of how do I have this limited resource that is stamina, and how do I move around the map to find a trajectory for where I want to go that I can get there with the limited amount of stamina that I have.
I think that would be really cool if I feel like that would be really cool if that were the game I were actually playing. Because the game I'm actually playing is, oh, you can get a third of the way up this cliff wall and now you're out of stamina.
I have also...
And you've taken like a solid 30 seconds to fail at this.
I guess there are cliffs that I look at that I don't even bother, but
Yeah, same.
most mountains I have figured out ways to climb up because there is usually some safe spot like halfway up that I can just sort of catch my breath on.
There's a progression of smaller climbs.
And I think I like those more, but they still are interminably slow. Like, it's just this long... It's me sitting on the... thumbing the thumbstick and sitting there watching me climb interminably slowly until I get to the top. It's like I want to wear other hats because I don't actually like the climbing bandana, but I feel like I have to wear the climbing bandana because otherwise it's even more slow and painful.
I did not know there was a climbing bandana. I should find that.
Like, the climbing bandana, I feel forced to wear it and I don't like it. And I feel like even if I had the stamina to make some of the climbs I try to make, I would still be spending forever just watching myself trudge up the cliffside.
I do wish that the jump was stamina neutral so that you could use it like to speed up a climb if you were confident in how you were going to make that approach.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. If that were stamina neutral, I'd feel pretty good about it, but it's horrifically stamina negative. It is the only thing I've seen it be good for is if you are almost out of stamina and you're not going to be able to climb the rest of the way, to jump, because it'll let you jump even if you don't technically have enough to do it, and it'll let you hit the top.
Yeah, and it actually, when you do that last attempt jump, it actually like puts you twice the distance of a normal jump or something like that.
Yeah. And it feels like that part feels pretty good. And it may be just like I continue to be in the wrong parts of this game because you say everywhere you've tried to climb, there's like paths up and like an interesting thing. I just have sheer cliff faces. Like between me and where I want to go is just this sheer cliff face, and there's no like places to rest. There's no nothing.
Ugh, yeah.
I'm like running along beaches with I've cooked nothing but stamina food, and I've had cliff faces where I eat like 3 or 4 full stamina recovery foods just to get to the top of.
So I feel like at some point there may be a point at which it is okay to say, this is a good game that I like parts of that I just do not like.
Yeah, I'm really... the thing is that I'm really on that borderline because the parts of this game that I like a lot.
Like, that's what I had to do for the Game of the Month on Dishonored. Like, that was just not a game for me.
Yeah, and I think if I didn't like the other parts of this game, like I didn't like the dungeons and I didn't like... You know, even with the weapon breaking, like the actual combat mechanics are really fun. I love the time dodge. I love the way the different weapons interact. Like, I wish I liked all those things less because then I could just put the game down and just not play it anymore. But I feel compelled to keep digging for the nuggets that I do like.
So I apparently really like this game because I started over. I was playing it on the Wii U, and now that I have a Switch, I am playing it on the Switch. And between playing the two, I don't know, like there's just something about the Switch version that feels better. And it's hard for me to put my finger on it. And I don't think it's necessarily the resolution of the frame rate or anything like that. It just feels like I think that
immediately suggest both of those things.
Well, I think part of it is the fact that on a Wii U, it has a different control scheme than I'm used to, where the sticks are rather high on the gamepad or whatever, and the Switch has a more traditional offset control scheme, and it just feels more comfortable because of that. And I think
Wii
like
Pro controller is symmetric like the PS4 controller, but switches the location of the buttons and the
yes, and that's really awkward to get used to. But I don't know, like it just feels like it was better designed for the Switch. Like things are where I need them to be more on the control scheme.
I think the only Wii U game I played that made heavy use of the second stick was the Xenoblade Chronicles X, and even then it wasn't really ever all that important.
Yeah.
Whereas both sticks are kind of really important for Zelda.
Well, and it's little things like to open your inventory or open your map. Well, on the Switch, if you're hitting the button that happens to be on the left side of the controller, you're opening the map. If you're hitting the button that happens to be on the right side of the controller, you're opening your inventory. So, like, it feels very easy to differentiate between those two functions, whereas the plus and minus sign on the Wii U gamepad and on the Pro controller, like, I actually have to look to see which one I'm wanting to hit.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm using the gamepad, not the Pro controller. I definitely open up the wrong one of those all of the time.
Yeah. Like, it just feels like the layout of the controls matches better to the Switch than it did to the Wii U. Like, it worked fine in the Wii U, but it felt like there was more struggle to play than there is on the Switch. And I felt like I was constantly throwing my damn weapon. And that is not something that actually happens to me very often on the Switch.
I feel like that just might be you being more used to the game.
Maybe?
It's still in the same place.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, the way that my fingers rest on the two controllers, like, it is less likely that I am to push in the control. I don't know. I will say, like, I am super happy with the Switch.
I do love the Switch.
I think it is a really well-designed controller, and I have already used it in most of the modes that it can do. Like, I found it really comfortable to take the Joy-Cons off and then put the little bumpers on them, and then just chill out with one hand to either side and, you know, play Zelda that way.
I feel like I used to think I was the only person who liked the split controller on the Wii U.
I really
on the original Wii.
I'm with you. I like the split controller on the Wii, and I like the equivalent on the Switch too.
I would have liked the split controller on the Wii better if it didn't also want me to do like motion control at the same time.
That's fair.
Like if I could just hang out, like any game that let me just chill with them to my side and play a game, I was perfectly fine with. And like, I really like that mode on the Switch. It's super comfortable. I really like the fact that this is maybe probably a stupid thing, but like Nintendo has always had proprietary cables, and I cannot tell you how much I love the fact that this is USB Type-C, because I could hop onto Amazon and buy 3 other USB Type-C cables for $20 total. And now I can charge my Switch wherever the hell I want to leave it. So, like, I can be playing a game upstairs and with it docked and then decide, oh, no, I'm going to lay down for a while. And so I just grab it, undock it, and put the Joy-Cons back on it, or then go downstairs and chill out for a while. And I've propped it up on my laptop and done the easel mode or whatever they call that. And I think mostly it's that I like the concept of a handheld console, but like me wanting to play a handheld console is pretty rare. But the Switch lets me play on a TV whenever I want to play on a TV, but then flip back to portable whenever I want to play it on a portable.
So what would you say you use it more as? Play on TV or play it portable?
Right now I've been playing it more on television. I tend to start out on television and then undock it and head downstairs, and like especially as a before bedtime. But I haven't started taking it to work because I don't have a case for it, and I don't really want to take it anywhere without a case.
I can see that.
And oddly enough, cases are really hard to find right now. Like, I figured some of the lesser accessories, like, probably would still be around, but no, apparently everybody wanted a case. I've still not seen one in the wild, like an actual Switch.
Neither have I. I haven't really looked, but
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a PS4 VR setup in the wild either, so
I saw one in a
seen
box.
both of these things, but I am in the middle of nowhere.
See, I thought middle of nowhere was going to be the way I found a Switch, and I've gone around to all these little towns, and they either got like 1 or 2 and then sold out, or didn't get any, or...
Yeah, I mean, my middle of nowhere, I have not seen any in the wild.
I've also been desperately hunting for the last few Zelda amiibos that I don't have.
Those have completely vanished.
Yeah, no, they're just gone. Like, I can get 5 Tom Nooks, and for $4 a piece.
You can get the new Zelda amiibo, the Breath of the Wild one, but the one that used to be super common, the Smash Brothers amiibo, it's just gone.
Yep, everybody wants a Pona.
By the way, snipper clips, amazing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I've gushed over this game enough. I love snipper clips.
It's a cute game.
Right now, I only have 2 games. I have, and that's honestly like one of the only negatives about the system is there's just not much out there yet.
Graceful
and like
Explosion Machine just came out. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's interested in that.
Is that the rhythm one?
No, it's a scrolling shooter.
Oh, okay.
Defender-like.
Okay.
So
I love Resogun.
Like Resogun. Maybe you should give it a shot. But
I love Resogun. But like, part of me just really wants to have ports of games. Like, I mean, I know Hollow Knight's coming out before too much longer on the Switch, so I'm waiting on playing Hollow Knight on anything else until I can play it on the Switch.
Yeah, there are a bunch of games that, like, honestly, one of the other reasons I've been playing as much Zelda as I have, despite not having a lot of fun with it, is because it is a joy to play the Switch.
Yeah,
like, just using that console is really fun, and that feels incredibly weird to say, but like, I enjoy interacting with the console.
And man, like, I ponied up for the Pro Controller, and that might be my favorite new controller. Like, it just feels good. Like, there's just something about it, like the weight, and I mean, I obviously have a severe preference towards offset stick control schemes.
Rumble.
But like, much the same way that the PS4 controller just felt good in the hand, and like, it had a really good weight to it. The Switch Pro controller has the same thing going on, and from what I hear, like, it's fully compatible with Windows as well. So like, you can just use it as a Windows controller.
Oh man, speaking of Windows controllers,
you got a touch of my luck.
The story of you, yeah.
And you should totally stop complaining about not having any luck.
I mean,
that's gonna happen.
I don't know that one thing quite outweighs your torrent of of good fortune, but I'll take it, and I am very happy with it. Thanks to some out of stock issues, I managed to get my hands on a very cheap Xbox One Elite controller for my PC, and I've used one of these controllers before, and like they are ludicrously expensive, but they're really nice controllers. I'm a big fan of. You're talking about controllers that just like feel really good, and the Xbox One Elite controller feels really good. It's got like heft to it, partly because it's made of actual metal in some places, like it's a metal casing. My current project is hacking it so I can rebind the flipper buttons on the bottom, like the additional flipper panels on the bottom to keybinds.
Ooh.
So you can have your push to talk key.
Yeah, push to talk key right on my controller, and it'll be great. But yeah, I feel like the PS4 controller and the Switch Pro controller and at least the Xbox Elite controller, like we've really come a long way in controller design.
Yeah, like it's a night and day difference between picking up like a PS3 controller and a PS4 controller. Like the amount of difference in the way those two feel,
which is crazy. They don't look that different.
And I like, even though I kind of prefer the Xbox 360 shape and design to the Xbox One, but like you put those two controllers in your hand and you can tell immediately that the Xbox One is a better design controller. Like it may not be my favorite controller, but like everything about that just feels tight.
Yeah, I remember like ripping my hands apart on the N64 controllers, playing Mario Party, and like never really being comfortable with an NES controller in my hands.
I used to get bruises from gripping the NES controller because why are there corners?
Yeah.
It made no sense. Well, like one of the first things I ever bought as an accessory for a video game console were these weird little snap-on things that rounded the corners on the NES controller to make it more comfortable.
Man, I just got an Advantage. That thing was amazing.
I was a fan of the Max. Like, I never did the Advantage. I was always the 3DS Max. Not 3DS Max, that's software for design. NES Max, the weird little boomerang-shaped controller.
I remember like how many weird controllers there were growing up, and like I feel like we're settled on just like visually distinctive but generally actually comfortable controllers to have and use.
But at this point the controller is kind of a solved problem. Like there are tweaks, but for the most part we have figured out what the ideal space of a controller should be.
Just in time for VR.
Like there were some really horrible controllers out there, like the Amiga CD32 controller, which was upside down from the traditional controller design, to where like the thing that you would normally hold were where the buttons are, and then there was like this piece along the bottom.
Oh god, that thing is awful. What is that?
Yeah, no, like I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
That's we need our controller to look different from the other people's controllers. How can we do this?
We'll turn it upside down. Well, and what made that even worse is they used like a standard 9-pin serial connector. So like you could use any controller that had that pin out from the Atari forward on the Amiga.
That controller is just
probably the Atari Jaguar controller. What were they even?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a horrible controller.
Oh, was that the one with the phone pad on the bottom?
Yes. Yeah, so you could have your fast food restaurant menu at the bottom.
It's like this controller will let you play Street Fighter and then dial your phone.
Yeah, and
no way to hold it.
The rarest thing are the stupid little inserts that went over the pad, because like everybody lost those with their games. They would tell you what the hell those buttons did.
You know, that makes me think of, you remember old hint books where it would be the hint book, but it would come with like this like paper thing with a red plastic insert.
Yes.
That you had to like look at the book through to actually read anything in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you lost that and it just became gibberish.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, This isn't useful for anything.
The way you fixed that was you went and bought a transformer. They all had one of those packaged in them to read their special transformer ID card.
Oh man.
See, my dad being a photographer, we always had like various gel acetates. So like if I ever lost one, I could just get one of the red acetates.
Nice. I still, one of the least comfortable controllers I've ever used, sorry Dreamcast fans, is the Dreamcast controller.
Yeah, the Dreamcast controller really wasn't.
They modeled the original Xbox controller after that too. It was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it was like there was nowhere to put my fingers after the first knuckle, and I had to hold it weird if I wanted to press the trigger buttons.
Although Microsoft eventually came out with the Xbox controller S, which was where they went for the future, basically.
Yeah, it was a good controller once they finally got around to it.
I actually liked the Duke. What little I played of the Xbox, I liked it.
That's what it was called.
Yep.
Original Xbox controller is frequently called the Duke.
Wow.
The big old boxy one?
Yep.
That one.
The one you could do serious damage if you hit somebody with.
The one designed for people with giant hands.
I have giant hands. Like, I got my fidget cubes this week, and I have never felt like I had bigger hands than when I got those fidget cubes. Because, like, they are way smaller than I expected them to be.
I thought they were kind of bigger than I expected them to be.
I have giant hands.
They were about the size I expected them to be.
I also have giant hands, Belle.
It's annoying, isn't it?
It can be. Although the Duke was still a little large, but it did fit my hand.
Yeah, like, I mean,
well.
it wasn't the greatest in the world, but, like, it was doable. Like, it was... I could come up with a useful grip on it. Like, prime example, like the Razer Naga. That is a mouse that is too small for my hand. And that's why I prefer the G600. Because it's much larger.
It's way too huge.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the G600, I can rest it in my hand, but, like, it's actually a little small.
Well,
I saw a mouse the other day, Belle, that I thought of you when I saw it. I was just a 2-button mouse. I don't know who made it because I couldn't see the label, but it was roughly the width of a teacup plate.
This is going in weird places.
Like, it was just this enormous mouse, like a teacup plate, like 3.5, 4 inches wide.
A saucer?
Saucer, yes, that's what that's called.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a name for a teacup plate?
Yeah. Look, I don't know my flatware.
That's not flatware either, is it?
No, that's not flatware.
I thought flatware was all of your...
utensils.
No, yeah, utensils.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your fork and knife and spoon.
So what's the catch-all term for plates and bowls and stuff?
Servingware?
Yeah.
I thought servingware
Plates
was what you
and
served
bowls and
food
stuff.
on.
Stoneware.
Normally I come up with dishes.
Dishes.
But dishes are exclusively the flat ones.
No.
No.
Necessarily.
Really?
Also bowls.
Seems like a catch-all term.
I don't know if there is a term just for the flat ones.
Tam's been living a lie.
Plates?
Plates and saucers.
Huh. Okay, so I can't call it to mind, but Spanish specifically has a word for these things. Like, Spanish differentiates between a catch-all term for things you eat food off of that are flat and things you eat food off of that are not flat. And specifically, flat things that you put food-related items on, which is why, like, saucers and plates are the same thing, like the same category.
This sounds like similar to the unnecessary precision of Japanese counting.
I don't know why it's relevant. Like, I don't know why linguistically that would happen that way.
Stuff and things, everybody.
Yup, that was a lot of things.
I'm still weirded out by flatware because none of my utensils are flat. Maybe the knives.
I don't know.
Mm.
I didn't name this shit.
Now I'm curious how many people over the course of my life have
You
not
just confused?
commented on just my flagrant misuse of these terms. Because I've been using I've been using these words for years.
There's a guy at work that, like, when somebody's going to give a status report, he says, "Can you give me the status quo or the status quo of that project?" And it's just like, I can't help but chuckle when I hear it.
Yeah,
You should
so
tell
for whatever
him he may also be living a lie.
so for whatever reason, flatware is the American term for silverware that isn't silver.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because it doesn't sparkle like silver, it's flat visually.
It lacks luster.
Yes. Anyway, there was this big mouse that was saucer-sized, and I thought of you, Belle.
Okay.
That was
See
a
if I
long
can-
story.
That was a really long round to, oh, hey, here's a big mouse. But, okay. So the game other than Zelda that I have for the Switch to try and re-rail ourselves.
Nope, it's way too late to rescue this, but we can keep going.
Specter of Torment.
Point out,
Oh.
I just wanted to point out, if you look at the games for the Switch on Google, it's a very aspirational list.
It's an extremely aspirational list.
It includes Beyond Good and Evil 2, so...
A
Aww.
little more aspiration expected.
Is somewhat more aspirational than I expected.
I will admit, like, some of the lists of games that are supposedly coming out for it do seem like these are things that Nintendo fans really just would like to see on the platform.
So there was going to be a second of Shovel Knight.
Yeah. Specter of Torment's good. It is frustrating because it is a kind of game that I don't exactly excel at, which is, precarious jumps over pits, but it's really cool. Like, it works well most of the time.
I think it works great. Specter Knight is the latest campaign for Shovel Knight, and if you already owned it, then you already own this as well. If you didn't, they're selling it separately as DLC. They have figured out how they're going to actually sell this game going forward, which is, to be fair, something that they really needed to figure out.
Or, like me, you can buy, I think it's $24 for the whatever their bundle is on the Switch.
The whole thing, yeah. I think that's the only way they're selling it on the Switch. But for other platforms, it used to be like that. That's the base game now. But there's a Specter Knight campaign where you play as Specter Knight recruiting the members of the Order of No Quarter, sort of like a prequel to the original campaign. Specter Knight does not move like Shovel Knight. Specter Knight's jump is, quite frankly, kind of pathetic, and it's very, very low. But Specter Knight can wall run a little bit. You can go a little ways up a wall and then jump off of it. If you have, a traditional wall jump scenario, you can keep going up either side. And his other main method of mobility is the dash slash. You are mid-air and near an enemy or projectile or sometimes a lamp or even anything like that. You'll see an indicator that you can dash slash it. You'll either make an upward dash if you are below it or a downward dash if you are above it. And this is how you cross large pits. Because as long as you have things to dash to, you can go quite a ways.
So you just told me that the thing that I was missing in this whole scenario is I did not realize that the up and down denoted which direction it was going.
Oh.
Yeah, like, that accounts for why that one pit was so hell for me. Because I kept trying to dash slash it.
Wait a tiny bit until you get below something.
Yep.
So you can keep your dash chain going. But this makes getting around levels as Specter Knight really fun, in my opinion.
It makes some of the boss fights really entertaining, too. Like that very, very first mini-boss thing you fight. The big dragon-y thing.
It's a little different than it is a Shovel Knight. Mostly because you can continue bouncing off of its head for quite some time until it just dies.
I never had to do anything other than slash. Like, I would just kept moving back slightly to line up the next slash.
The second one of those you fight is over a pit, and I had a much harder time with that one. When they released the Plague Knight campaign, I tried it and bounced off of it really hard because Plague Knight also moves differently, but it was very hard to get used to. Plague Knight's kind of slippery, but can use explosions and throwing things to direct which way he's going, which results in a lot of mobility once you learn it, but it's really frustrating to start with.
Is it still the same levels, or are the levels different now?
Specter Knight has a intro level, is a version of this same intro level before, but the other levels are basically new.
Oh, interesting.
Same themes, different layouts.
When I first saw Plague Knight, it was like, it's like I'm playing through the same game, just not with Shovel Knight. That wasn't terribly interesting, but new levels sounds fun.
The movement is, really the big thing. Games, when they're done right, make you feel cool to play them. I feel like you feel it feels good to play the game, and it feels like you're doing something cool in the process. and movement as Specter Knight just feels cool. Like, the slash thing, it's freaking awesome to bounce around a level, and it ramps it up enough to where you feel cool, and you get or at least, if you're not me, you grasp the concept of the jumps before you actually really need to test them against something difficult. I mean, it has the traditional Mega Man sort of thing where you can take the levels in any order you want.
Oh, interesting. That was not what the original Shovel Knight was.
Yeah, the original Shovel Knight gave them to you in tiers. Specter Knight suggests these tiers, but does not enforce them.
Interesting.
I think Specter Knight's going to have some interesting speed running.
Shovel Knight had some surprisingly interesting speed running. They did it at Awesome Games Done Quick this year.
I should go back and give that game some more plays, because I loved Shovel Knight, but I beat it, and then I was like, well, I got most of the stuff out of this. I don't need to play it more, but should check out the other stuff.
So another thing that has happened since we last recorded a normal show is the start of Diablo 3 Season 10.
Woohoo.
And I originally thought I wasn't going to do this season at all. I just was like, no, I'll skip it. But
And I kind of figured that I would do my normal low-key mode when I don't care about Diablo, which is play just enough to get the cosmetic stuff and then sneak out.
But like, you playing it made me decide to go ahead and play it as well. And then the other day writing about not really being all that into it made me into it? I don't know how that worked. But like, sitting down to writing about how I wasn't quite feeling this season suddenly made me like log into the game immediately after posting the post and start doing stuff, and then I've been doing stuff since.
I mean, I am enjoying all of the changes, right? Like the wardrobe thing is nice. The crafting mats being in their own separate storage is very nice. Quality of life improvements, as always, are good.
So is the Goblin Pack thing new, or has it always been there and it's just more common?
I think it's just more common. I know that it's always been there, or I wouldn't say always, but it is certainly not new to this patch. But I do feel like I have seen more of them.
I mean, I've seen 2 of them, and I have never seen any of them in the past. So, yeah, like it seems like they're definitely more common.
Although I have not seen any goblin shrines since the patch, which could just be bad luck. They're not super common. But I have seen a couple of the Menagerous goblins, so I had a couple of pets so far this season, so it's already worth it for me.
Yeah. I will say that hurt a lot of my oomph about playing through the season was the fact that there was no pet.
Yeah, and the character portrait is not super appealing, honestly. And at this stage, I already have all of the stash tabs that I can get, so that's no longer motivation. But I did, so the weird thing that I did this season, so the conquests that you need to get the last couple of tiers of the season journey, this season are just kind of utter crap. There's sort of like one gimme that's just leveling some gems up to 65, but then all the rest of them are either speedruns or things that require having more than one character leveled. So that was the other big reason why I thought I was going to write off this season. And so, of course, what am I doing? I am now trying to master 8 different set dungeons. Which means leveling a second character and getting all the sets for it, and then mastering all of those dungeons, which, let's be honest, the set dungeons are a really good idea that was implemented in just really awfully.
None of them feel really fun. They feel like something you suffer through because you need them.
Yep. And they definitely require a slightly different mindset from the rest of the game. Like, I find that I need to sort of reach some sort of Zen state to accomplish the set dungeons. Because if you just rush through them, you'll probably screw up an objective. And if you're too slow, then you won't finish in time. And you just have to sort of make your peace with potentially failing a bunch and restarting and figuring out how to die very quickly and just doing them over and over until you've memorized it. Like, okay, the Marauder dungeon, there are rockworms and they're going to pop up in specific places, so you might as well run it a bunch of times until you figure out where those places are, and then you can handle it. And it doesn't feel great.
Well, and the other thing that I've experienced is they feel really uneven in the difficulty level.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
some of them are really easy and some of them are just painfully hard. Like that stupid one for the mages where you had to kill things with fireballs, like the meteor attack thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
yeah.
no, I mean, that's just the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, that one was a pain.
And then meanwhile, like for the Demon Hunter, I think it's the Natalia set, where it's like, okay, just keep Rain of Vengeance up for a couple minutes. Just don't ever let it fall off. That's your, like, primary objective in there. And so I was like, as long as you don't do something stupid, like, you don't have any problems completing that. And it's a big open space, so instead of like a labyrinth that you have to track down mobs in tiny corners to make sure you've gotten everything to complete, the objective to kill everything. It's like, oh, everything is open and super easy to find it all and kill it. So yeah, there's a huge span. I mean, even within one class, there's a huge span of difficulty, and there's definitely, from what I can tell, like, surprise, Demon Hunter is easy again. So I've gotten now all 4 of them, which is nice because it earned me some more cosmetic stuff, because you get, I think you get a banner for completing all of them, and then you get another different banner for mastering all of them.
I just remember that the Crusader one was particularly easy, which is basically just like, make sure you have certain abilities up when you kill, like, these tough mobs. And then the rest of the time, kill everything, but also get hit by a bunch of spears. So the people hitting you with spears, like, they killed themselves on your thorns. So it was mostly just run around and make sure you waited enough time between engaging the champions that you had all your buffs up. And that's it. I think the last couple times we've had Crusaders, like, I've gotten mastery in my first time through. Not seen any of the new super secret ancient weapons.
Well, so in order to unlock those, you have to have completed a Greater Rift 70.
Solo or period?
Solo, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that's what, like, my current goal has been to try to push into that. I think I'm at 65-ish now, or low to mid 60s. And yeah, my goal is to push up to 70, because once you have unlocked it, then it can drop across your account on that game mode at any difficulty setting. So, like, once you've done it once, it should be unlocked for anything you do the rest of the season.
And then will that unlock carry over into your non-seasonals once season collapses?
I would expect it to. I don't actually know the answer to that. Just like I know that I have done a Greater Rift 70 previously, non-season or in previous seasons, and I haven't played enough of my non-seasonal characters to figure out whether that has already preemptively unlocked it or whether it's something that you have to do now since they've implemented it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something that I'm aiming for because, something else to chase, I guess. And it would be just cool to see them, see how they work and how much better. I mean, supposedly they're supposed to have the best possible role in addition to just better stats. So in theory, they shouldn't be garbage unless it's just a garbage item.
So I know you have carried me so many times during seasons. But, like, I've not really carried that many people and boosted them up to 70. And I got, like, a taste of that the other night in boosting Sol and ammo and Bix, and it was entertaining and also hilarious. Because, like, my tank instincts came in, and I was desperately trying not to let anything get past me and go towards them. And
yeah, you're way nicer about it than I am.
And then just like always, like, Bix was always one step behind me. Like, always. And I'm like, no shit, no. And I was trying so hard to keep everybody alive, and, like, when people were dead, I would pause a little bit and let everybody res up, and so we can continue on so they get the maximum benefit of the experience.
Nope, you are way nicer than me. If I am carrying somebody, it's like, all right, you camp you have two choices. You can camp yourself at the entrance to the level and wait for me to clear it, and then teleport to me at the entrance to the next level, and you will live, and you will get all the XP. Or you can try to follow me around, and maybe you'll get some loot, but you're probably gonna die because I am not gonna make sure that I kill everything.
Well, like, I guess I figure I was doing it for their benefit, not for mine, because, like, I maybe got a couple Paragon levels while doing it, and that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I guess the point is that it's, like, it is, if your goal is leveling, then it is much faster to do it where they just sit at the entrance, and yes, it's boring, but you can clear the level really fast, and they will get XP really fast, and really, until they're 70, anything that they might pick up is probably not super great anyway. And usually they can port to the Rift boss, whatever, once you've killed it, and pick up that loot.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I couldn't let them die. Like, period. Like, that's just not something in my nature. So I was desperately fighting to keep them alive.
See, Grace usually plays a healer. She's used to letting people die.
Yeah.
Even to the point of, like, sometimes I would stop what I was doing and run over and res them, and then continue on. It's the tank thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the healer thing, it's like, it's up to you. You have a choice. Like, you can totally run around all you want, but I am not going to guarantee your safety. Or you can do it the easy way and you'll totally live. Because I will make sure that I clear, enough around the entrance that nothing is going to sneak back. But that's as far as my...
Yeah, and I was all, none shall pass. It was entertaining as hell when I, like, turned a corner and there were, like, 15 goblins. And, this Marauder spec will just, like, straight melt goblins if they're, under level or under your level. Like, I've always struggled with blue goblins, but not with this spec.
No, the Marauder build is pretty great for murdering treasure goblins.
So, I think in a related note to Diablo, we should probably talk about World of Warcraft, I think, 7.2 patch?
What little we have seen of it.
Yeah. So I popped in the other day on a whim after playing a lot of Diablo, and I'm like, I should log into WoW. And I played through, like, there's an intro scenario. I played through that, and I started trying to roam around Broken Isles, and, like, you get a quest, you get, like, all these quests that are going to now unlock stuff on Broken Isles. And where are they? They're on the opposite edge of the Isles with no path between where you're at, like, and where they're at. So, I don't know, like, I started trying to find my way over there, and I logged out in the middle of probably some horrible demon-infested area.
See, I didn't even make it that far. I logged in today, and was like, okay, I'm going to start this quest. Started the Broken Isles quest. Got through the scenario. Didn't even get to turn the quest in, actually. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to run some LFR. And now I am done with WoW. I mean, and to be fair, it wasn't the worst LFR, right? Like, there weren't a bunch of wipes. There wasn't a bunch of raging. Like, it wasn't that sort of, like, LFR. It was just that, like, after playing Final Fantasy XIV for a while now, like, seeing the raids and how different they are, and, like, what my role is, it's just, there's no comparison. There's just absolutely night and day. And you can see some places where WoW and Final Fantasy are attempting very similar things, but the execution is so different. And just, I just, I have to have a lot of respect for Final Fantasy 14 because there are, the 24-player raids that have meaningful mechanics and yet are manageable enough for 24 strangers to randomly queue in and succeed.
Final Fantasy XIV does such an incredible job of teaching people how to play it.
Yes.
That it can do a thing that a lot of MMOs can't, and expect a certain level of competence of all of its players. Like, I know people who blast the game and refuse to play it because of its forced grouping. And I get it, but I also feel like that forced grouping means that it knows what you know.
Yeah.
It knows it knows what you can be expected to deal with as a player at every point.
So, I don't know, like I got into a discussion today, or not today, but this week, about grouping, and this is actually in relation to Destiny, but it's a very similar thing. Like, in both games, there's a lot of content that you can do with groups, but also functionally do it with total strangers. And I guess, for me, after Final Fantasy, like, it seems less daunting to queue into a system where there's, like, no negative ramifications of you running the dungeon with strangers. I mean, like, Destiny doesn't even really have chat, so there's really no negative. Like, the worst that's ever going to happen is that you maybe have a rough spot and wipe a little bit. And, Final Fantasy, it's kind of the same way, and for the most part, people are willing to talk their way through dungeons, and I don't feel like that's a really high bar to ask somebody to do, since the thing is like, in World of Warcraft, there were a lot of cases where doing content with strangers was significantly more difficult than doing it with people you knew. And I don't really feel that's the case in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, it is not significantly more difficult to run a dungeon, for example, with strangers as it is with your friends. Like, sure, you may work better with your friends and it may go a little bit faster, but it's not like it was more difficult to do it with strangers.
Well, and
I had a few cases, but
when you get close to the very edge of where the main story quest ends, wherever that happens to be, you can get some rough spots.
Well, what was the Pillars of Faith or Steps of Faith?
Steps of Faith was over.
Yeah, that was horrible. But those moments seem few and far between.
But I think, like, one of my complaints about running LFR and WoW today, it wasn't that it was difficult, it was that it was pointless. Like, okay, I got to see what the raid looked like because I'd only done the first few bosses before I took a break. But did they have mechanics? I didn't look any of them up, and nothing meaningful happened. It was like, why am I even here? But they dropped tier, so that's good, I guess. Killed Gul'dan and got a piece of loot.
Yeah, but the WoW method of handling lots of random people for LFR has typically been make the mechanics ignorable. So, yeah.
Well, and that style of content design is that you build the content for, like, heroic, and then you just progressively water it down for normal and LFR until, like in LFR's case, you can just straight up ignore mechanics. Like, they are no longer damaging, or they're just completely gone. Like,
so,
if they're
that's actually how Final Fantasy designs their primals. They say they do the extreme version and then strip stuff out for
Really?
the hard fight. Yep.
Because there are definitely a few fights where, like, I look at the hard mode and I feel like the developers looked at that and said, okay, what kind of nonsense can we add to this fight? And
that's how I
they
always
made
thought it
the
would.
extreme.
Nope. It's the
Yeah.
other way around.
Yeah, like, it always felt like, oh, we're just going to do silly stuff to the people now.
Has been since Leviathan, I want to say.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the extremes were designed later.
I mean, definitely kudos to them because, all of the stripped down versions of those fights still
They
feel
still have
like,
mechanics that kill you.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
they still feel like complete fights. Like, they don't actually feel like anything is missing. There are places where you can look at them and go, oh, I suspect they're going to do something stupid with this in the extreme mode, but it doesn't feel like the fight is incomplete without that.
Right.
Whereas there are places in some of the WoW raids where it's like, this doesn't feel like a raid boss until you actually get to some of the harder modes.
One of the big examples I can think of right now is Sephiroth's big AoE in its big form, which has a green side and an orange side. And in hard mode, this just does damage to you. One of those sides is physical and one of those sides is magical. And in EX, you have a debuff that means you need to be on one or the other.
We really need to learn mechanics of fight and get it done so we can move on to some of the other ones.
Mechanics, the fight.
I really love mechanics the fight.
Me
It is
too.
one of the best raid bosses I've experienced ever.
I mean, it feels like we're like learning some crazy choreographed fight sequence.
Some of these are things we technically should have learned before that we skipped.
Yeah, well.
Well, and I love it because, I mean, that was a fight on the normal or hard, whatever, like the first version that you encounter, where, like, I just loved it and I wanted to run it over and over again. Every time somebody else got to that point in the story, I got all excited because, like, the fight was so fun and it was so silly the way that they're like, here's every mechanic you have ever possibly seen and now we're going to throw them all at you at once. Have fun.
Okay, I think you just like nailed something that's different about the two games is that happened all the time. Like, somebody got to a certain point in the story and it was exciting to go run that thing, be it a dungeon or a primal or whatever, so that you could see someone else experiencing it. Whereas, like, in my experience in Warcraft, like, I mean, I was always willing to run people through content, but it was nothing I actually wanted to do, because once you've seen the place, it felt like a solved problem. That fresh eyes wasn't going to be any more interesting.
I mean, I think there were a couple of minor places where that maybe didn't hold, but certainly not in recent memory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Return to WoW seems to be a bit of a bust. And it doesn't help that I sort of look at all the stuff that I need to do to unlock flying or to actually make progress on my weapon and just kind of check out. Like, I'm excited. I mean, part of the reason I was excited to come back is because there's a bunch of new stuff to do. Hooray! But it's like all of the fun of the animo weapon grind without any of the fun.
Ouch.
The only
Wow.
fun part of the animal weapon grind is that you get a sweet looking weapon at the end.
Yes, that. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't actually done that much with it, but it just seeing, people in my guild talking about it and taking a look at what's available when I came back. It's like, oh, well, there's like a bunch of quests and other stuff that you have to do to unlock another grind for artifact power, because the first time wasn't terrible enough, and the fact that it's been out for a couple weeks or whatever means that, you're already behind where everybody else is, so everyone has an expectation. You're not going to meet it, and you can't because it's time gated. So, I mean, they have all their catch-up mechanics and whatever, like, people will, make sure to let you know that, but you're still always going to be behind.
That's the thing that sort of always kept me out of EVE, is knowing that I'm always going to be behind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that really is a disincentive to EVE. It's like, there is no catch-up.
I mean, there is now, but yeah.
And I suspect, like, it matters probably a lot less in WoW than it would in EVE, unless you were doing, trying to get into a mythic raiding guild or something. Like, I did LFR, my healing was on par with the other healers for the most part, like, even though they've been playing for this whole time that I've been on a break. Some of that
might be a different thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of that might be for other reasons, but it's not like, oh, the difference is so atrocious that like even when I'm doing my best, I can't keep up with random people in LFR.
Yeah.
So, there's that reassurance, but it's just like if I wanted to go back and raid with my guild, I'd feel like I was behind and I wouldn't be contributing as much as everybody else, and that feels crappy, and there's kind of no way to make up for it quickly.
That's super frustrating. I felt that way the first time for my brief stint back in WoW, when I opened the auction house, I got that feeling. I was just like, wow, the economy has done things, and now what I have is my savings is pocket change.
Yep. I had that when I came back as well.
Right, and the same way, like you can totally mitigate that and fix it, but it will take time. I mean, while everybody else is far ahead, it feels crappy.
Yeah.
And I guess my thing is, like, I am now behind, and I just don't want to spend the time to catch up. It's not that I couldn't, but I would have to. There would be the opportunity cost of not doing something else in order to catch back up. And I would rather, piddle around in Andromeda or, play some Zelda or God knows however many other games are out right now.
Yeah.
Than play WoW.
This year is a Torment.
Yeah, that's a theme that we've been saying is like, if this year ended right now, it would still be an incredible year in games.
Yes. If this year ended right now, it would still be difficult to pick a game of the year.
Only for some of us.
Fair.
But that said, I still haven't given Horizon nearly enough time.
I haven't either, and I feel terrible about it, but...
Horizon a shot. I want to give Neo a shot. I want to give Zelda a shot.
Was that Nier or Neo?
Neo.
Yes.
Although, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to play... Yeah, like, I didn't even finish Neo. I want to play more of that, because that game was amazing. Like, that game was the Dark Souls that I've been looking for, because I don't really like the Dark Souls aesthetic.
And I have heard Nier is amazing.
But I've got so much other stuff.
Yeah, there's so much stuff.
And then, I think we all know that come, June, July, we're going to be Stormblooding, so it feels like there's a timer that we have a little amount of time to, really get out and explore these other games.
Whatever. They're not actually going anywhere.
Yeah.
I know. Andromeda's a bit hard on me right now, and, I think I am going to be there probably, at least in a big way, until I finish.
That's how I feel about Persona 5 right now. And then I'm going to go back to other things.
Kind of holding off on Andromeda, and I'm playing Hollow Knight at the moment.
My desk chair broke, so it doesn't... I have a relatively high desk for my height, and so I need my desk chair to sit high, and the little hydraulic thing that keeps my desk chair high doesn't work anymore. It just sinks. And it only takes an hour for it to sink from all the way up to all the way down. So it's just physically uncomfortable for me to play anything on my computer at the moment. So I've been honestly not playing that many games because it's just not comfortable to sit at my computer gaming for long periods of time. I can browse the web or whatever and it's fine, but I sit differently when I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my new chair coming in so I can play games at my computer.
Well, we have recorded for a while at this point. Anybody have any other things that they want to discuss before we wrap things up?
We have recorded for a while, and so you guys mentioned that WoW 7.2 came out. Maybe next show we should talk about the fact that a content patch for Final Fantasy 14 came out, and we haven't talked about it really on a podcast.
It's true.
It is true. We had a Game of the Year show, or a Game of the Month show between here and there. That's when we all played it.
Yeah.
I do actually have a thing I wanted to comment because it's relevant to earlier in the podcast. I sort of cut off my Zelda rant and just spewed the rest of it out on Facebook, and had another friend of mine message me "You're here." He sends me a cell phone screenshot of the map and is like, "You're here, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's where I've been." He's like, "Okay, that place sucks. if you haven't done at least 2 or 3 things and have like 60 plus shrines. So if you've been running around there, it's why that game is miserable. Go here. So apparently I've been running around in the worst possible place to enjoy this game for quite some time, and I'm going to go to this other part of the map. I'll report back next week how it goes for me.
I was
I was curious because like I've not really encountered any place that I felt was super hard.
He's like, yeah, I got stuck in that place for 2 hours until I just ported away because I was chasing 2 shrines, one of which I discovered I couldn't get to because I didn't have the right like combination of things, and it's just sheer cliffs, beaches, and water. So if you're not falling off cliffs, you're drowning, and you can run following the cliffs for hours before you find a way up, which is exactly what I've been doing.
Is this to the south?
Southeast.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know that section. I have not actually found a way into it yet, so
I've done some work I did some work to get into it, just flying around from a tower, and then I couldn't get out of it. Or, I mean, not without fast traveling. So yeah, evidently I have found the pocket of awful in the game and have been stuck there. I will see next week whether I feel differently.
That is good to know.
P.S.
That explains a lot.
P.S. If you get stuck in a place with, like, ridiculously tall cliffs and water and no way up, just leave. There's nothing there for you. The diamonds you can collect are not worth it.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will be back next week with another traditional show. Good night.
Good night.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.
good night.